Hey everybody, welcome into a brand new video on the channel. Today we are going to break down another piece of vocabulary from another one of my favorite saxophone players in the world, Joe Henderson. So we're going to be talking about a very specific topic, which is sequencing melodies. Now, if you don't know what sequencing is, basically it's playing the same line in multiple keys. And this is a technique that has long been used by jazz musicians to play through chord progressions, just like we're going to look at today. We're going to look at Joe Henderson's famous recording of Recorda-Me. We're going to look at one specific part of his solo where there are descending 2-5-1 progressions in whole steps. And this is a great place to use these sequential melodies. We're going to look at how Joe did it in the most beautiful way possible, and we're going to look at a few of the techniques and ideas that he used to make this line sound so great. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, the specifics, let's play one chorus of his solo in which the part I want to zoom in on appears, but I want to put it into a little bit of context. So I'm going to start by playing the whole chorus for you, and then we're going to narrow that down to just a couple of measures. So there's the entire chorus in which the line that we want to look at appears, and I think you can probably already hear it, right? It's the part where the melody repeats itself, but we're shifting through the keys. So the second half of Recorda-Me is this really fantastic descending 2-5-1 pattern by whole steps. So it starts by going 2-5 in the key of C, and then it goes down to the key of B flat, and then it goes down to the key of A flat. So that's a perfect spot. So that's the line we're going to be looking at. Now, let's just isolate that line real quick so you could hear what we're talking about independently of everything else. Okay, so now hopefully you can hear it a little bit more clearly, what's going on and what we want to talk about. So let's take a peek what goes into this line. And there's a few elements that I think make this sound so great. Let's think about everything in terms of the 5 chord. So on the first measure, let's think about everything in terms of a G7 chord. So what he does is he starts on the 13, and then he comes down to the flat 13. You could think about this as the sharp 5 if you'd like, but I'm going to think about it as the flat 13. And then he simply goes down, plays the 3rd, and then plays the 5th, and then that 3rd actually becomes the major 7 of the 1 chord. So the first thing that I think is really interesting about this line is that move from the 13 to the flat 13. I think that just sounds so great over a dominant chord. And then the second part of this line that I think is absolutely genius is that he resolves it on the major 7 of the 1 chord. And if you're looking for a little bit more interesting of a resolution when it comes to your 1 chords, a major 7 is a great place to go. Figure out how you can resolve to the major 7 in a way that makes sense. It's such a beautiful sound because it's such a dissonant note on a major 7 chord. It sounds beautiful, that little bit of a rub that we get. So that's why I think the line is so effective, are the reasons that I just stated. Now, if you look at the next measure, he does the exact same thing, but now he does it in the key of B flat. It is literally note for note the exact same thing. The rhythm is exactly the same, and it's still effective. So he literally just repeats himself, but does it in a different key. Now, when we get to the third one, this is the real genius, is that he switches it up just a little bit, but you still get the same idea from the line. Now, the way he switches it up is really interesting. He adds a little tag at the beginning of the measure. So now instead of starting on beat 2, he picks up into the measure. And he also changes the harmonic devices that he's using just a little bit to give it this really cool effect. So now instead of going from the 13 to the flat 13, now what he's doing is he's going from the flat 13 to the 5th on the E flat chord, still using that third as the note he's jumping down to, and still resolving on the major 7 of that A flat chord. So you see, this is really, really subtle. He starts with a straight up sequence, and then he just makes this little tiny change that completely changes the sound of the line and keeps us wanting to hear more. I love thinking about it as a theme and variations. That's something that I think we're all pretty familiar with, and you should be using this kind of theme and variation approach in your solos. It really gives the listener a thread, something to grab onto, something to come back to when they're listening to you play. And it can make your solos just so much more compelling. So now that we kind of know what's going on with the lick, let's listen to it one more time and really listen for those things that we talked about. All right, so hopefully you got something out of this. Maybe you can start working some sequencing and some theme and variations into your own solos. Let me know if you have any questions about anything that we've talked about in this video. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And most of all, thanks for watching. I hope you are all staying safe and healthy out there. And we will be back soon with some brand new videos. Have a great one, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.